Hi guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. I have a special treat. We have another guest on the channel, Leslie Love Smith. She is a school board trustee here in the state of Michigan, in addition to being an educator, fourth grade educator. We met several years ago through a professional organization. We both are really into serving the community, and then several years later, we both ended up becoming sorority sisters through Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So welcome, Leslie, to the channel. Leslie is also a mother to two
and a bonus.
Two and a bonus. She is I consider you still a newlywed. I mean, in my eyes.
I think so too. Not yet, not 2 years yet, so almost 2 years.
So still a newlywed, but she really is one person that I know personally who manages it all. And if you listen closely in the background, you can hear baby Lauren, and we are all
every hour.
This is what it is right now. We are all trying to make the best out of a very challenging situation. Hey, Lauren. Hi. And I have an 8-month-old too. If you're new to the state channel, just to let you all know, I have an 8-month-old and a 6-year-old. So I totally get it. And I mean, we as mothers right now are trying to make the most out of a challenging situation. I'm working from home, and Leslie is a teacher right now, teaching 4th grade math, correct?
Yes.
4th grade math right now. And, also teaching her own kids. She has, in addition to Lauren, you have your oldest daughter is how old again, Leslie? 11. So, yes. We have, she literally is doing it all. So with no further ado, I want to kind of get into it and get into our questions today. Thank you so much for joining us. Go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button so you don't forget while we're going through this interview. But I'm going to go ahead and get started. So first, just tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so like you said, my name is Leslie Love Smith Thomas, and I have been an educator for maybe about 15 years or so. I started in early childhood education, have a master's in early childhood, master of education in early childhood, worked throughout different sectors in the private sector, in the education system, public school system, nonprofit. So I really have worked with children and families for many years, gained a lot of knowledge, seen across different districts, counties, just many things that families, many makeups of families, and many things that families need. And really, I think at the core of education, we have to understand that you are not only educating a child, but you're also educating that family. So I would say the most valuable tool that I've gained over the years as an educator is that anything you do, any approach you take with children, you have to keep the family in mind, because it is a whole family approach.
And that's why I was so happy to have you on today, because I know you've had so much experience, even though you are still a young mother, pretty much, out here trying to manage it all. But, being a former teacher, I always am so sensitive, like you are, to the plight of educators as well right now. And I understand that you all are doing a miraculous job. I am so thankful. I know because I've been on both sides. So I see now as a parent, how it is having my 6-year-old daughter. She's in kindergarten, and the work that her teacher is doing right now, keep them, still engaged in the process, these little kids. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about that and how you are managing it all and what life is like for you right now. If you could just talk a little bit about the reality.
Yeah, definitely. So currently I'm sitting in the space that I have set up to work. I have a table, I have 3 different devices along with my phone. And I don't know if you heard, but there was some ringing happening because
I was like, is that mine? I never know.
From 8 a.m. till about 9 at night, I have to either log off my computer completely or turn my phone on silent because I'm getting families. I've built such, and I guess it can be a positive and a negative, I guess. I've built such relationships with my families that they feel so comfortable contacting me no matter what day of the week, because I get calls on Saturdays and Sundays also, and no matter what time of the day. And especially as we're trying to work through navigating this virtual learning and distance learning, but they reach out to me because they see me as an extension of their family. And so I appreciate that and I value that, but I do have to sometimes give a hard stop, or make myself not as accessible and available, because I family that's also waiting for me to shut my computer down or silence my phone. As you can see, little Lauren right here. And so, you know, my world right now is pretty much trying to balance. I would say this week I've probably felt like I've been on an emotional roller coaster. I've one day felt successful with managing it all, and then another day I've literally gone to bed or just dropped, you know, fallen asleep where I dropped. And you know, so it's constant daily. I wake up and I say, okay, I'm gonna do this today. I'm gonna make my list, my to-do list, and just kind of start all over with trying to just do the best and give the best. I look at every hat I wear: mother, wife, you know, teacher, educator, school board member. I look at it all as service. And so that is really at the heart of what I do as a servant is, I feel like I want to give my best. And so every day I wake up and I think, you know, how can I serve? And then I go to bed and I feel, you know, I take an evaluation of how did I serve today? Who did I serve? And, you know, do I feel pleased with that? And so that's really what my life is like, you know, right now, trying to balance it. I will say I found a lot of comfort in doing some cleaning, some deep cleaning. I actually have my 11-year-old in her room right now doing some organizing in her closet, because I just think that with the time that we have, being able to declutter, it not only impacts the physical space, but also the emotional and the mental space. And I think right now, with the heaviness of everything with the virus and the stay at home, we do have to find a way to have a peace of mind. And so I'm finding comfort in doing some organizing and taking on little projects, you know, a little bit at a time.
I love that. And I love how you're
Yeah.
incorporating it as a family. You know, I have another video on my channel where I talk all about family time, because I think, you know, in addition to, we know this is a stressful time for everyone, you know, and I think it's so important that we are still like trying to find the good in it. You know, you can either worry and be stressed out and, you know, attract all of those kind of feelings that come with that, or you can still, in the midst of everything that's going on, try to create in your environment right now, because we are in our own homes, you know, we are in control of our children, our families, our lives. You know, I think really creating and fostering some new habits. You know, I love how you said you're teaching her how to organize. A lot of us, you know, we're so busy, we forget the little things because we're so busy, you know, in the regular day to day, going here, going there. And so I think it's a great time to do that. Could you talk a little bit about some of the overall challenges you feel like, because I feel like we're hearing a lot right now. I know when I go online, I see a lot of parents, you know, frustrated a little bit about, you know, the new online process and things like that. And as a former teacher, I know that these teachers are doing literally the best they can, like given probably what they were given, no matter what the district is right now, because this is something that is just unfamiliar for everyone. So I want to talk about just some of the overall challenges that teachers feel, you know, and so that maybe it can help parents understand, like, you know, we're all in this together. And that's kind of what I want us all to get. It's not about, you know, I see even parents and I've seen teachers both ways attacking right now. We can't have that. So just talk about some of the challenges so that parents can understand it.
Definitely. So I'll speak from my perspective as well as some of my coworkers. And this was dropped on us just the same way it was dropped on parents. So I think that parents are looking at teachers sometimes in a role and in a way that kind of sometimes becomes more like a superhero. And not understanding that we too had to take some time to kind of ground ourselves, place ourselves on our feet from two perspectives. the children that we have at home, and how are we going to go into a system of educating them and keeping them on track, and then also at the same time learning a system. Not This is a new time for many educators across the nation, and so while there may have been components of distance learning that maybe was in place in some type of way, we no district can say that they've had a full platform of distance learning, and so there's a learning curve that's come with that. Of course, you have the teacher who eagerly wants to continue to teach and educate and be there for their students, and at the same time trying to be creative and learn a totally new system. I've even heard some of my coworkers speak of not necessarily having a workspace. I'm in half of my baby girl's room right now, so we didn't have an extra room for me to set up as an office space, so we had to find that. My husband is also working from home, and so he has to be in a different space where he can have a work environment around him that is professional and meets the volume level. And so you have those types of just day-to-day things that you have to consider and factors you have to consider. Some coworkers have even spoken of not having devices. I'm very grateful. I have multiple devices surrounding me right now, but that's not everyone's situation. There was one of my coworkers today who's trying to reach out to get a laptop because she was never issued a laptop by the district for whatever reason. Then you have some who don't have an internet access. Before this, they didn't budget their households in a way that they either could not or didn't find having Wi-Fi internet service as a value add for them at that time. So having to get that, implemented. And so while these are and probably some of the same things that parents have thought of or are now facing, having space that their child can work in that isn't very loud. I will tell you this week, that's been probably my number one stressor. While I've been so excited of how excited and anxious and eager the students are to be engaged online, but when you have everyone online and their background noise, it really takes away from being able to connect and understand what the students are understanding, and it really kind of interferes. And so you have to get over that barrier of teaching, trying to drown out the background noises of all the kids home. But of course, if parents have whatever room or home they have, they're making do. And so as a teacher, you kind of try and overlook that, and you add on more patience and grace with that, and do what you can. But it is a factor because you're not in the classroom where the students are sitting in front of you and you can directly look at them and manage and control that environment. There's no classroom management with distance learning. You don't have control over that environment, and yet you're trying to teach with the environment that's coming to you through the screen. And so that can be a challenge. And so I tell you, my 1 hour sessions, I feel like I ramp all the way up to 10. And by the time that hour is over, I'm like, okay, let me just go and sit down. And so I go into a totally different room until it's time for me to, to get back on to teach again, because it does take that much from you in that moment. But you kind of figure out ways to balance it out. But I would say that, to parents, just understand that teachers are human as well. And just as families are having people being impacted directly with, an actual illness with the virus, so are teachers. And so, we all have to not look at each other as being the enemy, but we do have to find a way to meet in the middle. And it's not a me versus you and you have to do more. We all have to pull in and figure out, sometimes my reach as a teacher, and I understand this, but sometimes my reach as a teacher might be a little bit more than that 50% that I'm hoping the parent will give. But because I care enough and I'm invested enough in making sure that every child who crossed my path for that academic year, that I'm reaching them and doing my best to reach them, sometimes I'm willing to take that, that extra reach. And so I think if we all just look at, what do we have as resources and what do we have to give, and be willing to give it, and not so much as wait on the next person to quote unquote do their part, I think we'll all come out of this a lot better.
I agree. I love that you said that about us all like really doing our part, because that's what I'm really trying to stress right now, because I do get it, just being on both sides right now. And it's a challenge, I see just talking about managing the whole classroom. My daughter's in kindergarten, so it's insane seeing them every day on Google Classroom. I have to keep telling my daughter, like, they can see you. They can see you. So, even just teaching her, basic etiquette right now with how to deal with technology, how to handle it, has been a whole learning curve for her. I want to talk a little bit to you about what your day looks like. Like, are you teaching all, because I am not teaching. I'm out of that field right now. So I'm able to kind of, work my day as long as I get my work done. I have kind of that flexibility. How is your day? Is it the same as the school day was kind of looking? Is it different?
So we're required to log on and be logged on and available. I have all the apps also on my phone, but we're required to be available from 8 to 3, Monday through Friday. We have 2 hours that we mainly are holding live teaching sessions directly with the students. And then the other hours, we're working within our grade band. So for example, in my 4th grade team, I teach math. And so my session starts at 11 o'clock from 11 to 12, and then I have a lunch break. So we all take lunch at 12, and then I come back from 1 to 2 and I teach. When my my teaching partners are teaching, I'm reaching out to the other families and trying to help them in getting and doing whatever troubleshooting, feedback on whatever work they're submitting, and now still trying to assist them with getting logged in even sometimes. So sometimes I'm the tech guy behind the scenes, kind of wearing all those hats. And so from 8 to 3 is when we're required to be logged in and be accessible. But again, like I said, and especially because everything's on my phone, my families call me throughout the day and throughout the night, evening, weekends, and that's fine. And sometimes I do, shut it down, and sometimes, depending on what's going on, I'm kind of flexible with that. In terms of just, being available to them. But yeah, we are, our day pretty much just looks like the school day. And so of course, in the midst of that, I'm managing my daughter's schedule, both of them. I have, and I would say too, that's probably the best thing that a parent can do, regardless of what field you are in, is keep your kids on a consistent schedule.
I agree.
So my 11-year-old middle schooler, I've, partnered with her teachers to develop what's reasonable hours. When can I expect her to, log in and have live sessions versus work independently and do independent practice throughout the day. And so we've built a schedule around that. And then the baby girl, and I don't mind sharing, with her injury, we've had to move to virtual physical therapy sessions. And so throughout the day, I'm also figuring out ways to work with her and do her exercises, and then stream in with her therapist those sessions. And so that's usually about 2 hours per week with her. And with her being the baby, I can really kind of manage a little bit, aside from her maybe crying out from time to time. But I can pretty much, do the routines of the diapers and her feeding and all of that around my live time of being, right in front of the students.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about, because I know it's like an emotional time, especially being here in Michigan in the Metro Detroit area, just not yesterday, but the day before yesterday, my best friend's mother passed away from COVID. And it's just really close to home for a lot of us. First of all, how are you doing emotionally right now? And then just having to still do the day-to-day stuff because nothing stopped for anyone really. I mean, and yeah, you might be working from home, but a lot of us still have, if not the same responsibilities, in some cases more. A lot of us are not used to working as a unit in this way. We're now almost a month in. Can you first talk about just the emotional toll? Like, how are you doing? How are you managing things? And then two, have you noticed or recognized anything in your students? Because I can imagine, like, when my heart's breaking for my daughter, and I might just be more sensitive because, again, I was an educator. I know how excited you are to like see how far you've come, through the whole school year. And now to get to like, you're almost there. And not only does something happen, something really bad, is happening right now on the outside. So just speak to that in any way you can. Tell me how you're doing first, and then just talk a little bit about your kids or maybe any support that's out there for them. I don't know, just whatever you want to share about that.
So I'll say, wow, when everything first started, I think I went through I know that I went through a series of emotions. I think originally it played in the background for me. It was like, oh, I keep hearing about this COVID-19 thing, this coronavirus. I'm like, is it really that serious? And then it wasn't until I was scheduled to host a PD for other teachers in the district, and it was canceled, that it was kind of a hit to me, like, wait, this must really be serious.
And that was what, like a month ago? When was that? Like, can you give me a date maybe?
Yeah, that was probably about a week before schools were closed down. So that was a week before the 13th of March or so.
Okay.
And so that next week, things started moving very rapidly with all of the executive orders. And then that's when it became, okay, this is really serious. Like, this is a big deal. And then it started touching home. No one in my immediate family, I'm so grateful, has been impacted. However, people that I love and call, extended family, started being impacted, and people that are really close to them started being impacted. I had a cousin who we're so grateful, was able to recover and be sent home. She did have the virus. Her mother as well, which was really kind of, my aunt, was touch and go, and just a couple days ago was released from the hospital and able to recover. She was on oxygen. So it really was looking bad for her. And so my emotions have really been like, okay, it kind of went from playing in the background to, no, this is very serious, we're not leaving the house, to really just, I take all the precautions. I don't leave unless it's necessary. I now do all my shopping, my grocery shopping online. We really kind of have a system between myself, my husband, and my mother when it comes to, picking up the necessities and the essentials that are needed, who gets them, keeping the children in, really just taking all of the precautions. I definitely understand how serious it is. I don't think I ever took it lightly. I think I just wondered how serious it was, if that makes sense. It wasn't like, oh, this is a big deal. It was just kind of a thought.
To be fair, it escalated extremely quickly in our area. It went from like, you don't need masks, we're good, to people started dying. I mean, that's the reality. I mean, here people have started dying. And I think what people have to remember is, people keep saying, well, Detroit's third. We're thinking about in comparison to a Chicago and like New York. The fact that Detroit is very, if you don't know, you're not from here, it's a very pretty much small area. It's a small community in this initial area. And then our whole state, the numbers are, pretty high right now. But in our immediate area, especially in our community, I will speak to, it is like, it's very, very close. It's definitely like, it's a lot. I mean, I've known people from all walks of life in my life, from professionally, colleagues who have been affected by it, family members who have been affected by it, friends, as I mentioned earlier, sorority sisters, it's very much real for us here. And I know that it's not like that everywhere, which is wow. Like, count your blessings, because it's really affected us. And I know the impact is going to be great. I don't want to take up too much more time, but I do want us to speak to, first of all, the impact you think as you see emotionally for the kids and the impact in the fall. You know, like, I just want us to speak a little bit. I know we can't be mind readers, but just how you're feeling about it.
No, you know what? And we've spoken about this on both levels, at the school board level and then as educators, as teachers in the classroom, because we've learned actually today that one of my students' dad is in a coma right now. And so we understand that from a school district, even down to a school building level, we're going to have children who have had a direct impact. And so, especially when you look at teaching, we have already been in the state of teaching through trauma. And so needing to put those supports and systems in place anyway, because of the other traumas that children are already coming to the schools with, this is adding to that. And so we have already been talking through, what is that going to look like? I mean, we can't be mind readers, but we do understand that there's unfortunately going to be some of our students who are going to come in whose parent is now deceased because of this, or a caregiver, grandparent, neighbor. And so we do have to, I think, if nothing else, when things do start, getting back normal, whatever that normal, is going to be, I think we need to come out of this with more compassion and more patience, more sensitivity. I think definitely our education structure has to take into consideration the whole child and the whole family even more. I know we talk a lot about testing and, growth and all of that, but we're really going to have to spend some time working on the social emotional and taking care of children in those ways before we can ever maximize the potential of their learning. I will say I get a lot of "I love you" from my students. Aww. Even more now than I ever have. They'll just send a text, "I love you, Mrs. Thomas," and I know that's coming from such a genuine place, and I know that that's probably likely coming from the place of they feel a sense of closeness to me and a sense of comfort in the midst of whatever it is that they're going through. And so I'm grateful for that. I really do. I really take that to heart. And so I don't take that for granted at all. And so I'm just grateful to be able to be in a position where I can be that sense of comfort for children, because they're trying to process this.
And it's so needed right now, even, and I even think, like, with my daughter, like, throughout the day, I'm working, and sometimes I'm like, okay, just go do this. And, I have to check myself, like, oh my gosh, like, she's going through probably so much, and she as a child doesn't even know how to process it. We don't even know how to process things when we're children. And so it's so important for us to also be so sensitive, I think, to the needs of our children right now in the transition that they are going through, and be mindful, of course, of our energy as we go through this transition. I know we took up so much time today. I'm going to have you back, because I feel like we could just talk about so many important and impactful topics. But before we leave today, I just want to first ask you, is there anything that you are doing right now? I know you said organizing, and I mean, I know that's fun. I know that's fun for you. But is there anything else that you're doing right now to kind of make the most out of your quarantine that it says my internet's unstable, so I don't want to end. Hopefully it's good. It just says unstable. Okay. Is there anything that you want to share before they stop us? Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, of course, getting with my sorority sisters, I really look forward to our, live stream chats and bingo and, brain teasers and all of that we do. Because, just being able to have that connection.
Balance.
I've picked up words with friends. I would say on my, the app, that has become a big thing for me. So I'm a big challenger. Anybody, bring it.
I'm about to bring it. I didn't know. I'm bringing it, actually. I didn't know. I'm always looking. That's kind of my games. I like to, until I start losing, then you won't. I'm not playing. If you're real good, I'm not playing too much. I don't like to lose.
Listen, I always hit rematch. If I lose, it's rematch. So I would say those things, and then of course, finding some type of Hulu or something
Yeah.
on something to stream.
Yeah.
And I use those as my way to just kind of keep myself balanced and everything. Of
Right.
course, live streaming church, and which I think is amazing, the way that church has been able to adapt
Don't stop.
to
Yeah,
this
don't stop
time. So
churches. I've been
yeah,
to church more now
that's
than
right.
I have in a very long time.
That's
You know,
right.
I'm just saying, I mean,
That's
it's
right.
working
And the
for
Bible
me.
says, church is where you are, and so being able to even have that virtual church service
Mhm.
still gives you that sense of being connected. So I embrace this new life of virtual even more, the social media even more. I do think that there's value in being able to connect through the screen, even if that is the only way that you can connect in that time. But yeah,
I
that
agree.
that's pretty much what I do. I try to stay connected as much as possible. I try to feed my soul. I try not to stay isolated. I will say I probably hit a point of depression a couple weeks ago, but it was like every day I was waking up to a new person telling me that somebody else was either in the hospital or
Hmm.
had died. And so I'm so grateful that phase kind of passed, but I think that was kind of right after, like you said, things started moving really rapidly.
Hmm. Yep.
And it was like left and right, death
Hmm.
was around me. And so I
Hmm.
really had to make sure I found a way to get out of that space,
Yeah.
especially if that was going to be our new reality
Hmm.
for a while.
Yeah, yeah. I hear you. Well, you know, Leslie, thank you so much. We took up so much valuable time. So I hope you stayed. If you haven't
Oh,
yet, hit
yeah.
the like and subscribe button. How can people get in touch with you? I know some people might have questions, and I would love to include any contact information or anything you have in our
Yeah.
description below.
Yeah. So I am on Facebook. So I have both my personal and my education, my educator page, and
Great.
I share on my educator page resources continuously
Great.
for parents. I always look for free resources, especially now there are a lot of different programs that are offering parents and teachers an opportunity to subscribe or have a free subscription for a period of time. I would say definitely take advantage of those. And so I share a lot of those on my page. So Leslie Love Smith Thomas, if you type that into Facebook, you can find me right away.
And it's going to be down below in the description. Go ahead. You can follow all of her pages, all of my pages, and make sure you stay tuned. Again, thank you so much. Let us know what you thought of today's episode in the comments. Thank you, Leslie, and we will talk soon. Bye,
Yeah.
guys.
Thanks for having me. Okay. Bye-bye.